It's TA with MK. It's TA with MK. Gents and ladies, no time to waste. Don't be afraid, it's time to trade. Let's start your brains like high-speed trains. Storm these games like hurricanes. It's time to save this herd this days. Put on your cape and learn the phrase. It's TA with MK. It's TA with MK. Well, hello there. I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of TA with MK. My name is McKay. And if you've missed my face, it's because I have not done a TA update here in about a week, or at least it's been 4 or 5 days. So we'd like to get back into the swing of things with that. Obviously, I've been doing the TikTok thing, or I've been doing the crypto songs, and I've been posting those on YouTube as well. But if you follow me just for the crypto raps or the crypto songs, remember to follow me on TikTok. As far as YouTube goes, I will still, of course, post those on here. But my videos, rather than having all the silly little intros, I'm just going to post those as separate videos. And we're going to, of course, do daily updates on the market and potentially some coins I'm watching and things of that nature. So in today's video, we're going to give an SPX or the S&P 500 update, a brief update on Bitcoin, kind of what I'm expecting over the next 24 to 48 hours, and then 2 other charts I'm watching. If you guys are liking the content, please remember to like and subscribe, and let's go. So a big reason, or a big part of why I hadn't posted many, market updates over the past 3 or 4 days is a big part of my strategy within trading is waiting for Bitcoin to give us, a signal, so I have some sort of an edge. I don't like just blindly trying to predict that Bitcoin's going to do this or that. And with the S&P-X or the S&P 500 having a 3-day weekend, it was closed Friday. I don't remember what holiday, but it was closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it closed not really bullishly, it closed down here near, you could say it was potentially support. You could make the case that you were hoping that it was going to put in a double bottom, right here and then potentially push higher. But really, what mattered to me more was waiting till today. I needed to see what the SPX was going to open, how it was going to, perform, because Bitcoin's going to follow it. It's not that it will always follow it for the rest of all eternity, but at least right now with, Bitcoin having more institutions hopping in this year and stuff, it's highly correlated with the S&P 500, and it's a big part of how I trade now, my strategy. I use the SPX to kind of front run what Bitcoin's going to do. And then if you've traded crypto, you use Bitcoin to front run your altcoins, right? So just kind of get that little spiel out of the way. That was played a big role in why I just decided to focus more on the songs over the last couple of days. But now it is Monday. Traditional stock markets are back open. So we're on the S&P-X or the S&P 500 4-hour chart. And here's kind of what I'm seeing. So with the SPX, so this, on this 4-hour chart, to me, it's kind of rather simple. We've been in this potential falling wedge ever since we broke out of this larger falling wedge, right? We had this little, miniature rising channel. It got to resistance, little fake out, you could say, but now it's in this falling channel, right? And until we break to the upside of this, I have a hard time seeing Bitcoin, which is following the SPX, being bullish, right? So what we're looking for is some sort of a bounce as support where it's able to break out of this falling wedge, retest it as support, and then you could expect it to at least push back up to this zone, or potentially higher than this high, up here somewhere, right? So pretty much it's a waiting game, because until it does that, we can't expect Bitcoin to make any sort of significant move. Potentially, if you're zoomed out a little bit more, you can kind of see that we're potentially putting in kind of like inverse head and shoulders. You have this shoulder here, here's the head. Question is, at what point will this find support and create the right shoulder, if it does, right? So left shoulder's over here. To be bullish, you had this high here, right? And this high over here was higher. So to be bullish, you need whatever this does to be, this low over here, to be higher than these lows. So, could bounce soon, and then don't do it sooner than later over the next day or two. It could come all the way down to this kind of stronger level of support that I have marked in green. That would be similar to the left shoulder, potentially, with this wick over here. Maybe it doesn't go quite that low, so it's able to put in a little bit more bullish right shoulder. But at any rate, until it breaks out of this falling wedge, it's just kind of a waiting game on the SPX. So then that brings us to the Bitcoin 4-hour chart, right? And it's just been kind of consolidating within this, you could call it a bear flag. If you zoomed out, this is the 4-hour chart, but ever since the all-time high back in November of last year, you were in this long downtrend, and now we're in a rising channel potentially, which is of course a uptrend, but it is a bearish pattern because it has a 68% chance that at some point it breaks to the downside, right? And then the measured move for that would be something crazy low. In fact, if you want to go with the end of the world, end of Bitcoin, not just kidding, it wouldn't be the end of Bitcoin, but, you know, if you wanted to kind of go with, what do you want to call it, the apocalypse option for Bitcoin, that'd be back down here at around 20K, right? So if you're somebody that's been holding on to the hopes that Bitcoin could see 20K, you know, if this pattern broke lower and played out, you know, that's potentially what could happen, right? So over time, you know, it could take it a year and a half to do something like that, but that would be the measured move of this large pattern. But the question is, even if it is going to break down, we don't know how far we go, you know, before it bounced, et cetera, but will it have another push higher in the midterm, you know, just within the pattern that it's in currently, this potential rising channel, right? Again, 68% chance this thing will eventually break to the downside, but so far it's been bouncing pretty strong as support. You've had, you know, a lot of buyers here, boom, and you had a push all the way up here to around 47, a little over 47K, came back down. This low was higher than the previous low, got sucked up and bought up again. Now this ended up being a double top. This one didn't have quite as much strength, but still pretty good push back up to almost 46K, came back down, still a series of higher lows, pushed up to our most recent high, which was over 48, and then here we are again. You know, as of last night, it wicked down into that same little kind of area here, and so far it's getting bought up. Now there's not a ton of volume coming in. Question is it going to roll over? You know, basically the way you would want to trade this at this point is, well, I've been watching the SPX, but the thing is, if it loses this lower support, right, with volume, and you can kind of see this VPVR, you know, zone over here at around 39K, right? If it loses that with a lot of volume and it kind of hangs out under it for a bit, bearishly retests and starts trending this way, in that case, I wouldn't be trading that, you know, large target that we were talking about, but you could at least expect it to go back down and probably revisit, you know, honestly 35 to 36K, right? It's kind of where our next levels of support are at. And then, you know, of course, if those don't hold, you know, we take it level by level, but that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. There wasn't a ton of volume, at least on the larger time frames on this most recent breakdown. There was a pretty good amount of volume on lower time frames, so that still could be an indicator that this may just be a little relief rally that's happening today. But ultimately, to me, it's going to come down to the S&P 500. Because if that thing's going to break down and head towards lower support, the Bitcoin's going to break down and head towards lower support. Does that mean that it's going to go all the way to 20K? Of course not. We need to wait to see what the S&P 500 does. And my guess is the S&P 500, if we go back over to that chart, it looks like it's breaking down right now, a little bit at least. You could kind of expect it to eventually hit its support and make some sort of a little rally, right? And if and when it makes its rally, that's what we're waiting for to determine a good time to trade, you know, Bitcoin, or in my case, or most people's cases, altcoins. And then I just had two other charts I quickly wanted to go over. This is the Bitcoin Dominance chart. We're on the 4 hour. Now this is a chart I do go over, you know, most every day when I do actually put out a TA video at least. And, you know, we've been following this for a while. It was in this potential big rising channel, you know, for several months. And then it broke lower. And, you know, when it did, I had mentioned that if it would break lower, bearish retest, that we could expect some good altcoin trading, and that the measured move, which I've removed now since, but the measured move was down here in this green box, which it hit, right? And it's been acting as support ever since. And so now we're kind of been following this potential falling wedge that it's in now. And it's, you know, right now it's moving above it. It wicked above it already. So if it's above it, the measured move for this pattern right here would be just take this last swing low up here to the top of the wedge, put it out where it's, you know, if this ends up being the break, you know, the breakout, and it's able to follow through, well, then we're looking at it to come back up here to this, you know, level, which would make sense. This level up here, after it broke down, this became the first level of major resistance that gave us, you know, a good month or so of good altcoin trading, right? It broke out of the large rising channel, bearishly retested this zone here as resistance several times, you know, once, twice, 3 times, and then we got a really good bit of trading. And so it could make sense for it to, at some point, go back up and retest that again. And also that could then potentially be making a large, you know, especially if it were to get rejected. You know, I'm not trying to predict anything, but just you can kind of sometimes see things that could potentially happen before they even happen. So if this does break out, now, one thing I have always mentioned on my channel with Bitcoin Dominance is it doesn't really tell you what direction Bitcoin's going to go, right? But you can use it to time Bitcoin moves. And I'll actually put a link in the description for my Bitcoin Dominance video for beginners. It just kind of explains way more in depth the ins and the outs of Bitcoin Dominance. But basically what you're looking for is if anytime it's breaking out of a pattern, that Bitcoin's going to do something now, and a bigger move. Now, will it be to the upside, or the downside? Now, that's kind of why I say the SPX is kind of like the determining factor right now to whether this move that it looks like is about to happen with Bitcoin over the next 24 to 48 hours. I think it will determine the direction. So that's Bitcoin dominance. That's kind of what we're watching for there. If you for the bullish hopium would be that it somehow loses this support of this trend line, gets back into the pattern, and eventually breaks this support. And bearish retests and heads lower, then our altcoin seasons can continue. But what's looking more likely right now, when you couple it with the other charts we've went over so far, is that this is going to potentially push up over the next, few days to, 3 or 4 days, back up here somewhere near this this previous support back here, right? But then it became resistance like we talked about. And so this is kind of a no man's land where, especially if you're trying to long any coins, you don't want to be caught holding on to altcoins if Bitcoin dominance is making a significant move higher and Bitcoin is making a move potentially lower. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then the last chart I quickly wanted to go over is the USDT dominance chart, right? And I went over this previously on my channel. It's a lot like the Bitcoin dominance chart as far as just something you can use to determine if it's a good time to trade altcoins, right? And USDT is just the most common stable coin that's used across a lot of the exchanges. And it's just when people aren't confident in holding their Bitcoin or their altcoins, right, they're going to move it to the sidelines, which is, putting it in a stable coin, in this case, USDT. So if this is going up, bad for all. It's going down, good, right? And of course, ever since this bottom back here, it's when it broke out of this large falling wedge, confirmed it as support, was able to double bottom down here at support. Since, beginning of April, really, it's been pretty bad trading for the most part, right, within the crypto market, outside of a few coins here and there that are the outliers. And so what we're looking for now is it's just kind of been flipping each little level as, support that was previously resistance. The biggest question I'm watching out for over the next 24 to 48 hours is does it put in a higher high than this previous high? Because that's going to make a big difference to me over the next month or two what to expect out of Bitcoin. Because if this could put in a lower high, say this does come up over the next day or two, but it double tops, right at that same level that was back here, that's good. Then what we're looking for at that point is another good, week, 2 weeks of trading, and then we're just waiting to see does it put in a lower low than this low back here, or whatever, or a higher low. We just it just gives us a little bit more of an edge. And so that's kind of what we'll be keeping an eye on, over the next at least 24 to 48 hours is does this break higher than that previous high? Because if so, then we have to make the assumption that even if it does have a pullback, that it's going to have a higher low than this one down here, and then eventually push up higher. It just means that we're in a confirmed midterm uptrend for USDT, which is, of course, bad for altcoins. And that is going to wrap it up for today. If you guys celebrated Easter over the weekend, I hope that you had a good time with your kids if you have kids, or your family. Obviously, if you don't celebrate Easter, I just hope you had a wonderful weekend anyway. If you guys are liking the content, please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow. It's TAwithMMK.